Welcome to Rocket Ship, the home of epic React Native content. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today we finally have a guest again. This is the first guest, I think, since almost 5 months, and it's a returning guest. Today we have Jamon Holmgren. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks, Simon. I appreciate you having me on. This is always fun, and I love your podcast. It's awesome.
You've been here on episode 55, I think.
Okay.
So we're now around like 79, probably.
Okay. All right.
So,
all right. Yeah.
That episode was a lot of fun.
It was
great. X recommended so many tweets of you to me lately that I was just like, hey, let's bring Jamon back. He has so much to say. We just need to give him more space to talk about all his ideas.
Yeah, as if people haven't got enough of me and are tired of me. But you know what? Let's see how it goes.
Let's see. So for everyone who don't know you, Jamon is co-founder and CTO of Infinite Red, probably one of the best React Native consulting companies in the world because they only hire the best people. And, well, can you just give us a quick up-to-date of what's been going on for you?
Yeah. We've been just working on a bunch of projects. A lot of our projects lately have had to do with the new architecture. And of course, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later. Just plugging along. Things have been going well. We ended up doing a little bit of a hiring round, which is unusual right now. It seems like people aren't really hiring. And we were able to, we're up to about 30, a little over 30 people now, 32, 33, something like that. We're not as big as some of the others out there, but we try to hire very, very experienced people. And all we do is React Native.
Yeah, for everyone interested, definitely check out episode 55, where Jamon also explained like the whole philosophy behind Infinite Red and why you only have like such a small team compared to others, why you're growing slower than many others, but that's why you keep quality and also other things really, really high.
Yeah.
I also heard you have a family reunion coming up. Your wife has 140 people.
Yeah, it actually
when
happened.
I heard this, I was like, I have I'm a very bad example, but I have like 2 friends, and maybe if I invite my whole family, it's like maybe 10 people, and like 140. How?
This already happened actually, and both she and I come from the same kind of community, and big families are kind of common. I'm not Mormon; we're Lutherans, but big families are common. She's the youngest of 12 kids, and I'm the second oldest of 9. So even my family, on my side of the family, I think we had 43 people at our reunion earlier this year. So 140 people, and not everybody came. It was amazing though. It was really cool. I don't know. I get along. It's weird. You wouldn't think that with that many people, but I get along with everybody. Everybody's really cool on her side of the family. She's an identical twin, and so her twin lives in Minnesota and has for quite some time, almost 20 years. So she and her family were here, and we got to hang out with them, and it was awesome. We went to like a campground a little bit north of here.
Yeah, you need some space.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was exhausting though. It was exhausting. We've been kind of trying to recover ever since.
I believe. Yeah. I was already exhausted before our recording. As I said, it's been the first since 5 months. And I actually had a dream the other night. Like the things you dream about as a podcast host. I was dreaming about my spotty Wi-Fi, and then it would drop. And then I was talking to 2 of your kids in German because I have the relation that at one point you learned. My brain is a mess.
Maybe you'd get through to them better than I do in English. Hopefully.
All right, let's talk some technology. But before we get into all the React Native fun, I have one very important thing I wanted to talk about with you. Like, you're one of the best React Native devs I know, and you've been tinkering on a Godot game for like forever when I look on X. What's been going on with this flight simulator you're working on?
I'm glad you asked. I will literally sit here and talk the whole episode about it. No, I'll constrain it.
This is now about Godot.
It's now about Godot. So those of you who don't know, Godot is kind of a competitor to Unity, etc. It's open source though, totally free, and it has 2D and 3D game building capabilities. So when I first started coding, and I don't remember if we talked about this last time or not, but I started when I was like 12 and I made games, and I loved making games in like QBasic and stuff, but I always made 2D games. And then more recently, my brother Denton, who goes by Dead Slap on Twitch and YouTube, he has been making games and live streaming, and he's making them in Godot. And I don't know why he chose Godot, but he went that route. When I saw what he was doing, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, because I've tried over the years. I've gone back to Game Maker, which is what I used for a while, and tried Unity. It didn't really click for me. I mean, I was able to make some stuff, but it wasn't like it was fun. I felt like I was fighting the system a lot. I never tried Unreal, and that's actually something I'd like to try at some point. Um, but yeah, I decided to go that direction. Now, I've always, like, when I was a kid, I loved playing Gunship 2000, which was a Microprose game way back in the day. And I actually got to meet one of the founders of Microprose last year, or a couple years ago. Yeah, I think it was last year. And Wild Bill Steely. Really fun talking to him. He's 77 and still making games, still like
That's so
playing
cool.
his old games and stuff. He's a fun guy. And he was actually a partner to Sid Meier, who went on to build
Oh,
like
yeah.
Railroad Tycoon and Civ and all these
A
others,
lot,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So those two started Microprose. And after that, I was kind of inspired. I was like, this guy's like really still passionate about making games. It was a fun conversation. Maybe I should go make my helicopter game I've been wanting to make forever. And so I started working on it probably a little over a year ago, just in my spare time. Kind of got obsessed with it, and I'm still obsessed with it. It's still fun. The big thing with it is it's co-op multiplayer, so you can fly like 4 helicopters, Apaches right now, but I'll have other helicopters as well. Go fly combat missions, just like blowing up tanks and stuff. And but it's multiplayer, so you can have someone in the front seat while you're flying in the back seat. You can also just fly next to them. You can have up to 8 people flying as all pilot, 4 pilots, 4 co-pilot gunners. And it's fully 3D. It's fun. It actually has some beautiful visuals too already, although my skills aren't the greatest, but I've been able to like kind of piggyback on some really cool tech, open source tech that's out there, as well as just keep tweaking things until it works. And I had an Apache pilot, or sorry, a Blackhawk pilot, like a real world, like U.S. Army Blackhawk
Mm.
pilot, fly the game, or like you like fly in the game. And he told me that it felt really good, and he had a lot of fun. So that was
That's
really cool.
cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think I said this a couple of times on the podcast as well. I always meant to make like a trading game simulation, or sort of. I never really found the time. I like 5 times I started the game in React Native and tried with AI lately,
Yeah.
and it's like every year I try it again and then I drop it after a week.
It's a
Eventually,
tremendous amount of work. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
it
it really
is.
is. It's I liken it a little bit to like writing a book, because you have to commit to a pretty long amount of time, and you're going to redo stuff that you did, like a book. You rewrite the entire book in like 3-4 times. Well, you're going to do the same with the game, at least if you want something really good. I've rewritten every part of it so many times, but I'll tell you what, I have learned a lot of things working in Godot that I've applied back to React Native and my React Native work. And I think it's
For
been,
example.
well, I think one of the biggest things is that game developers, they work within a very, very strict budget for time processing the next frame. 60 frames a second means you have if you divide 100, or sorry, if you divide 60 milliseconds, sorry, if you
It's still
divide,
early.
yes, it's early over here. It the upshot is you get 16 and 2/3 milliseconds per frame, so 16.6 something. And so really you should be doing all your work within about 16, so that you have a little wiggle room. Otherwise, you're not hitting 60 frames a second. And this is something we've dealt with in the React Native community for a long time. You've talked about it many times about list performance when you're scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
animations, gestures, anything that involves constant movement. Now, in a game, everything's constant moving. You never have situations where you're just literally just sitting there doing nothing. Even at the menu, there's things like animating and moving and stuff, right? Like that's almost always what's happening. So games are not optimized like I don't know if a lot of people know this, but iOS apps and Android apps, they actually sort of like, it's not quite taking a screenshot, but it's like taking a screenshot and then just redrawing that, not even rendering, just redrawing that 60 times a second or whatever your refresh rate is, right? Literally just in your GPU, keeping a snapshot of what's there, and it doesn't redraw it. And so you can literally, if you just have an app up, you won't see any redraw or re-renders. And if you click on a button, now how many milliseconds do we budget to re-render and be up in the next state, right? Well, React Native developers often talk about things like, within 200 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds or whatever you're at. Game developers, that's not good enough. You got to do it in 16. And everything needs to be in 16. And you always need to be doing it in 16. And if there's ever a situation where it's not in 16, you need to go fix it. And you need to be watching this constantly. That's why an FPS counter is up on the top right corner of my screen always. And so since starting this journey, I've started to go on this crusade about making React Native apps run at 60 FPS. Or if you want to, 120 or whatever your screen refresh rate is. And how can we do that always? And not just how do we do that, but how do we infuse a culture within React Native where every single developer keeps an FPS counter somehow, not a literal one, maybe a literal one, but something up that always is telling you, hey, this isn't good enough. And yeah, you can feel the stutter, but sometimes you're testing on like your iPhone 16 Pro, your Samsung, like super powerful Samsung, whatever the latest one is, and you aren't noticing that because it's only dropping to 80 or let's say 140 or something instead of down below your screen refresh rate, and you just don't notice it. Like you're not going to see it, which is fine for your phone. But once you get to old phones and you start, like, someone installs it on your phone and it just falls apart. So I really want to infuse that culture, and then we need the tools. And so I'd love to talk about more of that stuff. But this all came from my Godot game dev experience. I want my game to run on like older like laptops and stuff, not just gaming computers. So I spend a ton of time like measuring and analyzing and improving the performance.
I mean, it's always a good advice to like get a low budget Android phone and test your app on that device. If your app is fine on that device, you can be pretty sure it works on everything. But
exactly,
I kind of rarely use the FPS monitor with the dev tools. I think what you said would be quite interesting if we had like a tool that you can just start like a dev tool, and then it would really like ping you. Like when you're testing your app, like, oh, this screen suddenly costs something, then it would be a lot more obvious to developers. Like, I don't want to keep it open and keep an eye on it, and maybe it drops or maybe not. I'm not looking exactly, so
yeah. No, you're totally right. Yeah,
build it into Reactotron.
I know. you're foreshadowing there. That's what I've been working on actually. So my big project, which I'm happy to talk about, is rewriting Reactotron, which is in Electron right now, but rewriting it in React Native Mac OS as well as React Native Windows, and really refocusing it on stuff like this. It'll still have the logging that we all love and the state, kind of inspection stuff, but a lot of that stuff can kind of be done either just as well or better with the React Native dev tools. And so Reactotron needs a place to live. And I have a particular philosophy around this stuff that I don't think necessarily fits perfectly with dev tools, and I think it would work really well with Reactotron.
Let's come back to Reactotron in a second. I actually wanted to talk about it later, but I wanted to conclude the Godot section because I have one last question. There is actually a React Native Godot wrapper I saw pop up a couple of months ago. Do you have any relation to that package, or have you used it, or like, do you know what's the state of it?
I have not yet used it. I want to, but I haven't yet taken the time. I haven't had anything to do with it, although obviously it is a cross section of my interests. I actually think it would be pretty useful for people who need like a really specific 3D experience in their game, and so, or sorry, in their app. It doesn't necessarily have to be a game. Um, and really, this comes
Could
back to. Oh, go ahead.
could this be like a portal in my application, like just a part of the application being the Godot
Yeah,
game, and the rest is just like the React Native stuff?
that's exactly right. So, uh, I I look at React Native as being more of an orchestration layer for many renderers. You have, of course, the built-in views that we use every day. That's the normal way to do things, and we often distinguish React Native from like Flutter in that it's rendering native views and not like a canvas-ish sort of situation. But it can also do Skia. It can also do WebView. So React Native WebView, you can drive it using React Native and inject JavaScript and do whatever you need to. Um, and of course, it can now Godot. And there's also Unity. We injected Unity into an app that needed a 3D like talking head, for example. And so they animated it in Unity because they were former game developers and they really knew Unity very well. And so we just injected it in there, and
It's so cool. That just shows the power of React
yeah,
Native, right? Like,
absolutely, it does. Yeah,
people
it's
talking
an
about Flutter
orchestration.
and why it's so great. Just give
Yeah,
this example. Oh,
yeah.
no problem, Unity. No, yeah, we just do this.
I sort of feel though, if you're building a full immersive experience, React Native doesn't really give you quite enough to justify being in there. You might as well use Unity or Godot,
Yeah.
because Godot can go to iOS and Android,
Oh, okay.
or or whatever. There is a counterpoint to that. Building menus in these systems is annoying. Like, I miss React. I miss having React. And so there's an argument to be made that you can build all of your menu system in React Native, and you pop out of that experience, the full immersive 3D experience, to go back to the menu, and then you launch the game, or you just like re-show the game and then continue on from there. That's there's an argument to be made there as well. But like I said, power and processing is limited in games, especially on a mobile device. So usually game developers aren't going to be willing to do that trade-off.
Yeah, I assume. Okay, let's close the Godot chapter for today and come back to Reactotron. Yeah, let's talk about in general open source at Infinite Red. We probably also should quickly touch on Ignite in a second, but since we started with Reactotron, let's talk about it. You said you have some specific ideas for Reactotron. Could you also, because I felt like there's a new player, it's called Rosenite, I think. You read about it as well. It's hard to describe. It's like it's a framework for building dev tools or integrating into. It sounds. I mean, it's looking great. Definitely,
it really
I just
is.
can't describe it correctly. It fits right into the React Native dev tool suite. I don't know if it is competing a bit with the idea of Expo and their dev tool plugins. Like it's starting again all over. Like the style drama, what style should I use, is now becoming what dev tools should I use.
That's a good thing. It's nice to have choices like that. I've been very impressed with Rosenite. I haven't played with it much, but just reading the documentation, talking to the folks at Callstack that have built it. I mean, the reality is that Meta really wanted to, of course, put out a quality dev tools, and they've been working on that, working very hard on that. But building a plugin architecture and ecosystem was not super high on their list. And Rosenite kind of like solves that. It's just like, hey, here you go. Here's that layer. It's going to be a place where you can build and ship dev tools. And I will use Rosenite. Like, it looks great. It looks fantastic. The thing with Reactotron and where it lives in the ecosystem is very much going to be sort of an infinite red approach. And I think that you'll see this in other places like Ignite as well, where we like things that are like fairly integrated and focused on one thing, like Infinite Red itself. We don't have a lot of like contractors, freelancers. We have very few, actually. Most of our people are W-2, like full employees, in America. Like it's a company like that. we are remote, but like it's a full company. We're integrated. We try to hang on to people as long as we can, and just have like top to bottom integration, and then also focus. So just doing React Native. Same thing with Reactotron. It's like, okay, this is very much focused on when you're building a React Native app, what are the common things that we run into? And you kind of like already called it, Simon. I love it. You said, I want something to pop up when it's wrong. I don't want to like have to go analyze it. I want it to pop up like, hey, there's something wrong with the performance. And that's what Reactotron needs to be. It needs to be something that is kind of watching your app and then proactively supporting you and telling you when things are going wrong, and just giving you tools to like reach in and do things that are kind of maybe invasive. For example, like clicking a button might run some code inside of your app so that you can like reset to a certain state or do whatever you need to do.
I just had a thought about this in terms of debugging tools. You lately replied to someone calling like, how do I use a debug mode in my app or something? And you said in Reactotron you can have set up scripts or something to do that. And I was just reminded that recently I'm using I think it's called Headspace, the meditation app. I've been using that for years. And last week I got into their dev tools. I have no idea what I pressed. Like I must have pressed some weird combination of my phone, and I was suddenly in a menu where I could toggle on like old customer, has purchased, has not purchased, like a bunch of these flags that they were in their live application. It was kind of weird. Folks at Headspace, please use Reactotron. You can just use cool scripts. But anyway, what I also wanted to say is that coming back to the idea of like it just pings, one of your developers recently worked on something where he, I think, hooked up an MCP server to an iOS application. And like, for those who don't know MCP, I'm not gonna explain what MCP is. That's a topic for another podcast.
It's an AI tool thing, but yeah.
Right. It's kind of watching the application on my device, right? What's is your plan like to continue with that?
Yeah.
Bring it into Reactotron? So
Joshua Yos, who works at Infinite Red, has for several years now. Really fantastic React Native developer. He's just a joy to work with. At some point, I don't know. You should talk to him. He'd be a good interview. He on his own decided he wanted to try building this, and so he built MCP Simulator iOS. I might have gotten that backwards. iOS Simulator MCP. But the idea behind it is you can control your simulator and also feed information back as an interface between like an AI, an LLM, and maybe a tool that you're building. And so I think of it like similar maybe to Maestro. And if people have used Maestro has the ability to control the iOS simulator. And that's what Josh is doing, but it's more on the side of like, how do we expose this functionality to an LLM? So just giving it tools that it can call, and then you use the MCP server then to make that happen. It seems to be widely used now. It kind of took off. That's Josh's thing. We have this philosophy within Infinite Red. It's very open, where kind of the way that we think about it is, if you want Infinite Red to help you maintain something, then you can bring it to Infinite Red and say, hey, I'm thinking about making this thing. Can we work on it as an Infinite Red open source project? And that's how Reactotron was born. Okay. Actually, that's not how Reactotron was born. That's how Ignite was born. Sorry. Reactotron was a little bit different path to get there. It started as a side project of one of our developers, and then we brought it in later.
The best projects, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the open source philosophy. I 100% want to promote what Josh is doing and everything. But he wants to kind of work on his thing. Go do it. I love it. It's a really cool open source thing. We're actually kind of trying not to take on too much more open source load because we want to, for two reasons. One is that we're spending a lot of time before maintaining a bunch of things that we had built way back in the day, 2016, 17, etc., that really didn't fit what we were trying to do anymore. And so we've kind of deprecated those and gone away from those. And we want to focus more on higher quality contributions to Reactotron and Ignite primarily. as well as to the broader ecosystem. So contributing to Expo or contributing to React Native Core, to other important packages. And so that's been our shift in open source philosophy over the last year.
So that also means you don't really have any new packages planned for the foreseeable future.
No, most likely not. It's possible, but most likely what the open source work that you're going to see come out of Infinite Red is going to be new versions of Ignite, new versions of Reactotron, and then contributions to core packages and React Native itself.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep.
Speaking one last time of Rose Night, do you feel like Expo missed a chance here? Like I think a year or 1.5 years, they came up with this dev tools or dev plugins, whatever they called it, concept. And there are a couple of them and they were kind of good, but they never really promoted it heavily. And there was also like no registry. And now Rosenite comes out and gives us all these tools. Should Expo have done this all along?
It does feel like a good fit for Expo for sure. But I guess at the end of the day, they can only do so much. You know, they have the size of team that they do, and they want to keep quality high. And they have a pretty big surface area. It does fit what they're doing. Absolutely. There's some benefits to having a different company do it. It's not just, Expo focused. It can work on brownfield apps, for example, and much more. Expo has always been fantastic about trying to support the broader ecosystem and not just Expo. But obviously, they're going to have sort of their perspective, and having someone who actually works on many, many different apps like that, like Callstack, makes a lot of sense. In a lot of ways, I would say it's probably a bigger missed opportunity for us, where we could have built more of this sort of thing into Reactotron. And over the years, Reactotron, it was a little neglected prior to probably a year ago, where it worked really well. A lot of times people, if we ask them like, what do you want to see out of Reactotron, their answer would be like, don't break it. Don't go and try to, add a bunch of features and then make it slow. The reason I like it is because it's lightweight and focused and doesn't do a lot of that other stuff. And people still use it for that reason. And we're going to keep that in mind for sure. That's going to be a philosophy going forward. But we had the opportunity to make it something more. It's just that I think it's a tremendous amount of work, like to do something like that. And we didn't have that person passionate about it at the time. And I would have loved to do it, but at the time I was so busy doing so many other like business things. It's only been really
the Godot game, yeah.
Business. But like a year ago, I started handing off some of my more major responsibilities at Infinite Red, and it's allowed me to get back into coding, which is where my passion is. And yeah, so more of my time can be put into it. And then we have some others that are starting to pick up as well. Ignite has always had more, I think, momentum behind it at Infinite Red. But yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity by us. I'm just glad it's getting done though. And they're honestly doing a great job with it.
Just a little spicy thought here. If you plan to like redo some of Reactotron, why not put the functionality right into Rosenite and kill Reactotron at one point?
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some there's definitely an argument to be made there. And it's not even outside of the realm of possibility. But I think the main reason is just because I want to hack on it. I just want to do it. It's I think from a business standpoint, it doesn't make as much sense. But I love working on this. I love the idea that maybe we could do it in React Native Mac OS. And that's been a really interesting experience as well. And also, I just want like full creative control. Like we can do whatever we want. We don't have to work within anybody's constraints. We have almost no dependencies. We're not even using CDP, which is Chrome Debugger Protocol. That is the smart move to use CDP, but I think it's called CDP. It sounds weird right now when I'm saying it.
But yeah.
Is it CDB? I don't remember, but it's the protocol that Chrome uses to communicate to its debugger, and React Native is doing the same. Reactotron has its own like homebrewed protocol that it uses. And I don't know. I kind of like that style. It's maybe it doesn't make the most sense, but it does give us full creative control over what will happen. The old Reactotron, by the way, the code base is hard to work on. It's been around for a long time. A lot of different people have touched it. And that's one of the reasons we're doing a full rewrite is we want actually the code base to look like Ignite is what we want it to. So it'll be very familiar to people that have worked on any Ignite apps. You go into Reactotron's new code base, you'll feel right at home.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument for Reactotron anyway. People love it. So yeah, keep doing it. And
yeah, sure.
You love tinkering on stuff, so that brings me to another topic I wanted to talk about with you. I picked up this quote. I hope it was from you. I made my podcast notes over the last couple of weeks whenever you said something interesting. So, and then I tried to piece it together into a story. So you said something along the line of, I've built a bunch of bridgeless turbo modules and custom fabric components in the past couple of weeks, and then it's been really fun. So that brings us a bit into the realm of new architecture and what's possible. So I don't know if you remember that sentence, but what have you been tinkering on over the last time?
Yeah, now I'm regretting everything I said over the last few weeks. No,
and meanwhile, we're still building the Godot game. I don't know where you got all this time from.
I steal it from sleep and from other places I shouldn't. There's a lot of projects that haven't gotten done around the house.
I see.
But with that said, yeah, I have been doing that. It's been really fun. One of the things that came out of this, so React Native macOS, which is where I'm primarily building it, is very similar to React Native iOS, like very similar, but it's not quite the same. So instead of using UIKit under the hood, it's using AppKit, which is an older version. UIKit was forked from it. And so you'll have things that look very similar, but they're just a little different, like just a little different. There's I mean, obviously there's the NS view versus UI view, for example, under the hood and things like that. And then macOS, React Native macOS is a couple versions behind. I think it's actually it's like on 78, maybe 79 is coming out pretty quick. Microsoft maintains this. We haven't gotten as far on the Windows side, so I'm not going to talk about that quite yet. We are working on it, but we're a lot earlier in the process. And like the very first thing that I did was try to, of course, spin one up, and the results weren't great. And I talked to Saad over on the Microsoft side, who is, by the way, fantastic. That is a guy you should have on too. I love that guy. He was on React Native Radio recently, and he's just such a great guy. And he's heard a lot from me over the past few weeks. But they had experimental new architecture support. Of course, I just throw the switch and I'm like, let's go. And so I've run into things over time. For example, I ran into a problem where it was just redrawing, not re-rendering. React wasn't the issue. But on the native side, it was redrawing just constantly. And it was slowing everything down when you try to scroll and stuff. It was just horrible. Only in certain cases and in certain views, but it would just sit there and hammer redraws. And so I worked around that, filed an issue. But yeah, then I just started building some TurboModules and stuff. And, you know, as in my position at Infinite Red, I often, the React Native stuff I do isn't super deep or sustained. It's more like I do experiments and I help my developers, but I'm not necessarily working on client projects, almost never. And so because of that, I hadn't sat down for weeks at a time and actually worked on like a new architecture project. I've done that, like old architecture stuff back in the past, but not new yet. So this is my first time, and experience wasn't great. But I finally got through it and I got it working, and then things started falling together. And then I started thinking about, I was doing performance measuring, of course, and I was really blown away by how fast it was. And I was just really excited about that. And then also, I started thinking about ways to improve the developer experience in ways that we could just make it like you don't have to write if you're writing Objective-C, which I'm going to get to Swift and stuff, but if you're writing Objective-C, you don't have to write a header file. It just generates it for you. All this stuff, it just makes it super, super easy to build native functionality and integrate it right into your app. I even have a full script that you don't even have to go into an Objective-C file. Like you write your Objective-C in the header in a comment, not in the header, in the top part of your file in a comment, and it generates everything you need out of that. And all you write is the function and then call it in JavaScript. And so really looking to try to do that. Of course, there's Nitro modules and Expo modules, which are much better user experience, but Turbo modules are here to stay, I believe, even if they do end up bringing, Expo modules or Nitro modules to the core, which could happen, I think. But Turbo modules are around to stay, and they need to be a better developer experience. So that's kind of what I've been hacking on. Fabric itself, of course, enables a bunch of interesting things, which has allowed for Legend List version 2 Legend List, I think it's version 2, and Flash List version 2.
Yeah.
Those things have come out of that as well. I think a lot of new stuff's going to be
Yeah. We're gonna come back to the new stuff hopefully. That's interesting regarding turbo modules. I think when I last talked to Mark Rosavi, who is like the creator of Nitro modules, I think he kind of said that turbo modules is a bit behind, let's say. I think Expo modules is like the easiest way, probably. Like you're an Expo project, you can like instantly do an Expo module and it's unbelievable easy. Turbo modules is the way Meta meant to do things.
Yep.
And Nitro is the fastest way to do things, probably.
Yeah. And it's probably Nitro modules is like a little it has fewer features and stuff, but really focused on speed, which is really nice. Yeah.
Right. What is your take at Infinite Red? Have you used all three of them? Which do you prefer? What's your plan?
Yeah. So everybody's favorite answer, it depends. If I'm in an Expo app, I will use Expo modules every time because that's going to be your best experience. It's plenty fast enough. It's like there really isn't a reason not to use it for performance even. But Nitro modules is very interesting, and what's happening over there, Mark is building kind of this ecosystem in a way of it's almost like an alternative. If you're not using Expo or along those lines, if you have something really custom, Nitro modules then becomes this really neat path. I would probably reach for Nitro modules. Generally speaking, if I'm building an app and I'm not wanting to use Expo modules, is kind of or can't use Expo modules. Turbo modules I would use if I'm building libraries.
Okay.
Because, non-Expo libraries. Because really, like, a library needs to fit in as many scenarios as possible. And once you have it built, it just works. So you don't need to worry about it. There's React Native Builder Bob, which is a way to kind of spin it up. React Native Create React Native Library is in there as well. And these things allow you to kind of build these turbo module libraries very quickly with minimum friction. So those things are also that's how I would think about it there. I'm using turbo modules in React Native macOS because I don't want to fight compatibility issues with, I don't even know if there are compatibility issues with Nitro. I didn't even try it. Sorry, Mark. But I also wanted to have some real hands-on experience with turbo modules. So that was part of it as well.
Makes sense. So you've played a bit with a new architecture, and I got two questions for you. So the first is actually about the sentence you said before, because there was something, you tried custom fabric components. What actually is a fabric component? What do you have to what does it look like? What is it? How can I use it?
Yeah, so the old school, the legacy native components, which I think is sort of referred to as paper, I guess, they would use, of course, the bridge, and any sort of communication with the native side would be asynchronous. And that led to the primary difference, in my opinion, isn't necessarily the native performance. That's going to be pretty well the same. It's communicating back and forth in a synchronous way. So there's an issue when you're doing especially lists, but other scenarios as well, animations, where you need to actually measure the layout of an app. And as you know, like React only describes like the structure and gives you values for doing the layout. But the layout is done by Yoga, which is a C++ library. And so that's on the native side. And when it's done, I want to know how big this component is, or I want to know what the layout is
Right.
in order to correctly make decisions on the JavaScript side about like how many cells am I going to show? If they're only 4 pixels high, I need to show a lot of like table cells,
Right.
list items, I guess. I'm revealing my old Objective-C knowledge.
Yeah, the UI table view.
Exactly that. So I need to make decisions on the JavaScript side. Fabric allows us to synchronously get that information back. And the code looks a little different, just the way that they expose things. And then it also it should also, like I said, it should also enable better things in animations and whatnot. But that synchronous communication back and forth, and then it all, I guess the primary reason for this was also that they could bring in things like concurrent React features like suspense and different things like that in a way that made sense. And
Right.
yeah, and so this allows them to move forward with the newer versions of React on the React Native side too. That wouldn't have been possible with the async bridge.
Do you think also that's like the real strength of the new architecture, or the main feature?
I haven't totally like come to a conclusion on that yet as far as where it will help us the most, but I do think that we're seeing the most movement there on the Fabric side over like TurboModules and whatnot. TurboModules I think are going to be very, and just using the JSI, the direct bridgeless mode is going to be very important. But we are seeing, for example, Legend List and Flash List version 2. Those are now able to, in only JavaScript, no native code, are able to do incredible performance. And that's really where we're seeing early returns.
So based from your experience at Infinite Red, should everyone migrate to the new architecture now? Because last week I also, maybe you saw the commit as well, where they disabled the allow all legacy architecture flag or something in React Native 0.82, I think.
Yeah,
all
that's
these
right.
versions. So, I mean, it's going to be the legacy architecture. They talked about this at the app.js. We know it's going away, but still some people claim that, I tried to update, my whole app is crashing, this or that package isn't ready. What does it look like from like your perspective at Infinite Red and actual, like, I don't know, are companies paying if they say, hey, we're going to update your app to the new architecture? Isn't that great? It's just $20K. Nothing changes. How do you sell it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's probably going to be more than that, unfortunately. It depends on the size of the app, but
it's the Hello World app for $20K, yeah.
Yeah. No, we've been working on this with almost all of our clients. The ones on Expo, it's not as painful. It still does. There's some pain. But yeah, everybody's moving that direction. They understand this is the future. And that they need to, if they want to keep pace with React Native versions. Yeah, I think it is the way to go, and I think people, that should be their priority right now. And I understand you don't want to stop what you're doing. You want to ship features. You want to make sure everything is, but you gotta keep pace with the community. This will also unlock some stuff on the performance side that I think you're going to want. And yeah, it's the way to go.
Did you have some real pain with some packages? Were there like some real showstoppers?
Yeah, there were. I don't want to like call anybody out or anything, but there were some packages that I think in particular we had a lot of problems with React Native Screens, which is a package I love. I really think that that's such a great package, and it has added a lot of value to our ecosystem. It doesn't get the love that it probably should. and because of that, then React navigation reanimated as well. But to give Software Mansion some credit, these are deeply integrated with native libraries, and it's not like it's super simple to just switch it over. To Thibaut's credit, over on the on the React Native web view side, he had switched over to the new architecture years ago. He did it like a long time ago and got it all working, and it seems to be working pretty well on the new architecture ever since. So he was one of the first to get things going, and then a huge amount of credit over to not only Software Mansion and others that have kind of upgraded their own, but Expo for going through like the whole ecosystem and saying, hey, this package needs to be updated, and helping them kind of get rolling and moving forward. I don't think it was just Expo. There were people at Meta and others that were helping with this huge effort. But that was actually, I think without that effort, it would have been a much more painful situation. There is still pain. There are still things that will break. Absolutely. You just kind of got to go through the process.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that we're done with the migration of the new architecture, and then I heard we're already talking about we're moving from Cocoa Pods to Swift Dependency Manager, and I don't know what this is causing. I can't do you have any idea if this is breaking a lot of stuff? But to me, it sounds very like I don't want to do it.
Literally yesterday, I was talking to one of my developers, Mark Ricker, and he was just really not happy about the Swift packager. It is apparently very painful. I haven't done it myself yet. It seems like we can't help but want to break things. But to be fair, CocoaPods is kind of going away eventually.
Is it
not
dead?
Going away dead, but it's not being actively pushed or developed. And it's the writing's on the wall for CocoaPods. We do need to move forward as a community.
Okay.
It's, I guess React Native's 10 years old, and, technology moves on. And now that Swift Package Manager actually has the ability to do Objective-C as well, it allows us to probably move everything over. But yeah, there's going to be a little pain for sure. I don't want to think about that one yet. Let's finish this one.
Yeah, so no React Native version 1 this year, and probably not next year.
I don't know when it's coming. I wish I did. I consider React Native 0.60 to be what 1.0 should have been, because that was a huge change for us, with auto linking and a bunch of other pretty big things. But I understand also why they didn't, and I understand going to the new architecture. I feel like once the new architecture is pretty well mainstream, then to me that could be 1.0.
Yeah, got the same feeling. We'll see what happens. We'll see. We're already quite far with the time, but I still want to touch on a couple of things. You got time for some questions?
I do, absolutely.
Awesome. Let's do this one quickly. AI. If I say let's talk about AI, what does it invoke in you? Do you get the same feelings at this point? Like if I said let's talk about Web3, or are you more positive?
Well, definitely not Web3 type vibes. So I was Infinite Red, and I'll give credit to my business partner Gant because he was the one pushing this, was really into AI early, like 2018 at level, and he ended up writing a book about it. This was before ChatGPT or Copilot or anything had come out. And so once I saw Copilot, I was like, okay, this is definitely the future of programming. And that prediction ended up becoming pretty true. Like that's what we're doing. We're doing a lot of very few people don't use some sort of AI autocomplete at the very least. And a lot of people use much more than that. With that said, my initial version of my game there was quite a bit of vibe code happening there, just to kind of hack something together, right?
Yeah.
And I got something together very quickly. I've rewritten all of that code by hand, and I don't think there's anything hardly left that was AI generated. because it just wasn't that good. And yes, it got me there, like got me excited. And I think that's a lot of times going to be the current role of vibe coding and getting, just AI stuff written out really quickly. And certainly there's situations where I'm not talking about autocomplete, because autocomplete to me is just a no-brainer. It just works really well.
Yeah.
It's better than what we had before. Why not use it? There's no real reason not to use it. But I'm talking about like generating in like a composer or Claude Code or something like that. And when you I think when you do that, you do need to keep in mind that you now have an increased responsibility for the code that you're shipping. Like, you're not writing it yourself. You don't have the mental model for it. And so I have just found that my enthusiasm of the years prior is tempered right now by the realization that when I ship stuff that I have not written myself and looked at every line, the quality is lower. And I know that the quality is lower and that it's going to come back and bite me at some point. It's not always the case. I actually one shot a thing recently that was good, and I went through and like reread everything. It was a very constrained situation where I knew the AI was going to be pretty good at it. I've also had AI doing some refactors for me. So just sit there and go through I don't know how many, 60 or 80 or maybe it's 100 like scripts now at this point that I have, and like really, like just a repetitive thing that I didn't want to have to do myself. It does decently well at that. I still have to go through and like clean up where it maybe made some inferences that weren't quite right in a ambiguous situation or something like that. It's a lot like cleaning up after a junior developer. Of course, the future is going to get better, like it always does. There's always some improvement, and we coalesce on something. But we're in that early stage. I kind of made a joke on Twitter about how back in the day, every 5 minutes a new JavaScript framework came out. Well, it's the same thing with AI now, and it's because the existing ones aren't good enough. Now we have React and all these others that are good enough, and so we don't have the incentive to go out and like rewrite a new React. But back in the day, it wasn't the case, and we're there now with AI.
Yeah, for a while, I was at the beginning of this year, I was very deep in the whole AI bubble and tried to follow all the news, but you're getting absolutely crazy. Like every day, there's an unbelievable new breakthrough, and this is the best thing on earth. Like the best chat, the best music generation, the best image generation, the best agent, MCP. I don't know. Like constantly, it's a lot more than like React Native. There are a lot of news every week. AI, it's unbelievable. And if you don't like just read everything, you feel like you're missing out. Everyone's like, this is the time, this is the gold rush. In 5 years, we will say this was the time. And you feel so left behind.
They might be right, but I also, I missed the .com boom, and, still did all right. I think that, I mean, I used to say more of those types of things when I didn't think anybody else was saying it, and I thought that there was a void. Like I felt like very alone back in, I would say 2022, 21, in saying that, hey, this stuff feels like it's going to change the entire industry. And I got a ton of pushback back then. Like, no, it's horrible. Have you tried it? It doesn't do. And I'm like, I know, but I can see where it's going. Like it's going to be better. And I was right about that. Now it feels like there's a lot of, I don't say it anymore because there's plenty of voices saying this, and a lot of them are kind of grifters and kind of going too far. I actually talked to a company I talked to two companies actually recently that are both prime like infrastructure for AI, building AI tools on them. And both of them said the same thing, that their biggest problem with all of these AI companies that are coming to them and wanting to build up partnerships and stuff, which they're doing, but there just isn't the focus on quality. They just don't seem to care about quality. They're all in this land grab mode. And someone's going to come along who will focus on quality at some point. And then the tools will get good enough and they'll be able to build it. And then we'll see. But we don't know. The ones that are out there right now, we don't know which one of them will take off, or if any of them will, and some new upstart comes along.
But I agree to what you said a couple of minutes ago. She's like, I created a couple of own apps earlier this year with
Hmm.
heavily support by AI because,
Hmm.
I mean, it's great. You use the composer. I use Cursor for over a year now. It's just great, especially in the beginning. You just set it, it implements it across the repository and
Hmm.
just keeps getting better. But those apps, I'm absolutely not passionate about them. Not even the quality mentioning. The quality is sometimes okay. You can get good quality with Cloud Code and stuff by now, but I'm just not passionate. They don't feel like my apps when I ship them. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. This app is done. Like in the past, I did a calorie tracker.
Yeah.
That always felt like my thing. I did
Yeah.
this. I know
Yeah.
every interaction with the async storage and everything. Like, and then I built these other apps, and I was like, when I shipped it, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. You're totally right. I have several personal apps as well, and you're right. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It's not quite yours. And maybe that's okay for some things. I do think that there's a ton of software that should exist that doesn't exist right now. Like we've barely scratched the surface of what software should exist in the world. And AI will help us get through that backlog. But there's also always going to be a place for people who put a lot of care and time into it. You know, even going back to my game, like there's a ton of games out there that maybe you can
Yeah,
fly a
Peter Thiel did
helicopter.
like, was it Peter Levels? That's the
Yeah,
indie,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
with the
Right.
vibe
And
coded
he
game.
came out with that about the same time I was building my thing, and I had zero interest in what I was doing, very little anyway. And he had like, he's selling, of course, tens of thousands of dollars in sponsorships and all this stuff. But the reality is, like, I just kind of keep quietly plugging along with my game. Interest is building, like, it's very slowly. I'm not even pushing it that much. I'm just kind of talking about what I'm doing with my normal circles. I'm not even like doing the other things. And I'm really focusing on the quality, like the feel of the helicopter needs to feel amazing. It needs to feel like a AAA game from that standpoint. Like it should just really, really nail that experience, the flying of the helicopter. Um, and I don't know. I feel like slow and steady wins the race a little bit in some of this stuff.
Maybe that's also just what people call a hobby. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it because not
Yeah.
for the profit, just because
Yeah.
you like doing that game. It's like
I don't have
I'm
that
running a
pressure.
marathon. I'm really passionate about running the marathon in
Yeah.
like under 4 hours, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there will be 60-year-olds that are faster than me in that marathon.
Sure.
But to me, it's my time, and it's
That's your
important to
time.
me. Like
Absolutely.
nobody
Yeah.
else cares, and
Yeah.
same probably you for your game, and you even have people playing that game. I mean, that's
Yeah.
always a nice reward.
Absolutely. I'm okay if it's just me and my dad and my son playing, like I just want this game to exist. And it sounds like more people maybe do as well. It is more niche. Like it's not something that everybody's going to want to do. Not everybody's into combat helicopter games.
It's a very American game, I would say.
It is.
Honestly.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it 100% is. I'm unabashedly. Uh, Although I have some ideas to make it a little more interesting to others as well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't mind if it's kind of targeted at middle aged guys like me. That's fine.
Fair enough.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
I want
That's
it to
good.
exist.
Okay, let's wrap up AI.
Mm-hmm.
You as a CTO have a probably better perspective on this. Everyone's saying AI is replacing developers or it's not replacing developers. Like, what are your whole thoughts? Are you scared of AI replacing developers in the next, let's say, 5 years or something?
I think it is replacing some types of development jobs, but it's opening up many others, just like any technology. Every technological step along the way uh, certainly has had an impact on the types of jobs that are available. And you can look at things like agriculture as an example where the technology is so much beyond. It allows for these really huge farms that especially in America, seems to be kind of a problem actually. But my wife's twin sister, she's married to a dairy farmer in Minnesota, and he has like 1,300 cows or something, um, and they use a lot of technology. They use GPS and different things in their tractors, and all these things. But I think that unlike agriculture, software has a vast surface area. like unlimited surface area almost, where agriculture, you have a limited amount of farms that you can really have in the world. And so I think that the number of jobs and the types of jobs, I think is still going to go up over time. I told my then 18-year-old son, Cedric, that, yeah, go into software development when he asked me, because I wasn't pushing him into it, but he was interested. And I said, yeah, do it. Like, I think you're going to have a good career. And even if you don't, you're going to have that knowledge of knowing this logical sequences and understanding how software works under the hood. We might be the last generation that understands how that all works,
Yeah.
and there's going to be jobs for us, because we're going to actually have to be the ones going in for the exceptions, for the situations. I mean, I joked online about, I'm going to, not even a joke, but like, we're going to, as expert consultants, we're going to have lots of work because of all this like slop being built. And then they're going to get users, and the users are going to be like, hey, this app sucks for these reasons, but I still want to use it because it's a good idea. Then they're going to come to us and say, hey, let's make this better. And I think we're going to have a lot of stuff like that. And I don't think making AI better, like even if you made it 10 times better, I don't know that quite does that. It's only going to be, it's going to be better at what it has training data on. And there's so many things that there's just not training data available on. You try to Google something, you get nothing back for this error message. It still happens.
Yeah. React Native just moves faster than LLMs all the time. So that's how we keep up the jobs.
Okay, there you go. Swift package manager. Yeah, bring it on.
Okay, let's talk about some new packages and some future things going on currently in the React Native ecosystem. You touched on this before. Legend List version 2. We have Flash List version 2. Just the other day, I saw that I think Vadim posted something that he used Flat List, and it was actually quite good. What is your current take? Have you tried all of them? Have you measured them? What's your feeling? What's the best? It depends. I know, it depends.
Of course it depends. I think that with Flash List version 2, which I don't think the full version is out yet. I think it's still in a beta.
It is.
Is it?
No, I think it is.
It is? Okay. Yeah, I hadn't checked recently. I think that brings it on par with Legend List. I think in general, Legend List is probably the first one I'd reach for, partly because I'm good friends with Jay Maestrik, who built it, and he's, like, if I ever have a problem, amazing, he's going to fix it. Like, he's going to stay up all night to fix it. He's just amazing. Love that guy. But also I very much, respect Talha and all the folks over at Shopify that are working on Flash List and what they're doing over there. One thing to keep in mind is that the recycling views is not always the right option. So Legend List allows you to specify whether you want to recycle or not. And of course, just for the people who may not understand, it's where you, instead of allocating and creating brand new items as you scroll down the list, it just simply reuses the ones that have scrolled off the top of the list for the bottom, and vice versa when you're scrolling in that direction. Sort of like an escalator would reuse stairs instead of making new stairs every time, right? It's not always the right choice, though, because when you're taking that view that has already been laid out with something else and then relaying it out with the new cell or the new table view table. Dude, I cannot stop doing that. The new list item.
An iOS podcast soon, yeah.
Exactly. The new list item, when you're relaying it out, if that's slower than just creating a new one, then that can be problematic. Or you might run into footguns where you have weird behavior. Maybe you have some like on presses that aren't getting reassigned properly or whatever, There's ways around all this stuff, but so you do have to test whether recycling makes sense or not. You can turn that on and off. I don't remember in Flash List if you can. Flash List, I think, is built around recycling. But yeah, and so sometimes, especially with very, very simple items, and you have like 1,000 or under, then just using like a flat list makes a lot of sense. You just have to measure it. And again, this goes back to having the right tools in place, where luckily all of their APIs are very similar. So you can swap them out like boom, boom, boom. You can even do it on the fly in your app if you just put 3 buttons like switch these 3, and you just switch back and forth between them and just see how they respond when you are scrolling, and see which one's best and try different configurations. I just like having options. That's the main thing.
Yeah, you probably need to do some recording or use an old device to see some differences. If they all look the same, it's yeah.
And I have this philosophy, because you're supposed to measure like the performance docs on reactnative.dev say always run it in like release mode. I actually have this philosophy of make it work really well in your normal dev mode first, because that almost simulates like having a slow device. It's not perfect. That's not a perfect analogy, but if you make it run really well in dev mode, very rarely you're going to have any issue in release mode. Then if you find that you can't, like you hit a certain point, then switch to release mode and see, is this really a problem or am I wasting my time?
Right. You had some really great episodes on the React Native Radio lately about React Native Web. 2-part series. First with Nicholas Gallagher, who created it initially. Second with James and Evan from Expo. Could you please give us, just like for people, I will definitely put it in the show notes. Everyone should listen. The first episode is like 40 and the other one 27 minutes. It's great to hear them. But what is the current conclusion, the current state of React Native Web and also React Strict DOM? I feel like this package, especially when it came out or was announced as an idea, I picked it up and that video was, I think, quite popular. But then, like, nobody talked about it anymore. And that has been like 1.5 years. And now I heard that it's kind of production ready. And some people say, use it. So what's your take after doing these 2 episodes now?
So I was actually really curious to see what Expo thought about it. Of course, it was very awesome to talk to Nicholas and get his kind of perspective on it. And it solidified that Meta is investing in it, and it is slowly coming along. It's taking its time, but it's coming along.
But you refer to React Strict DOM.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they also put time into React Native Web.
That is right. Yeah. That's correct. But also, I was actually very pleased to hear that James Ide and Evan Bacon were both very aligned with Meta on this. I didn't know that. Like, I was kind of expecting there to maybe be some fireworks or something in the second episode, but there wasn't. They were pretty much like, yeah, this is the direction we want to go as well. But it's not there yet. Actually, we wrote an article on our blog, shift.infinite.red. Just recently, Tyler Williams from our team wrote an article about when to use each. And so that's a good place to go to kind of check out, like, sort of the decision matrix around that. But yeah, like right now, React Native Web is probably, still the mature version that you can use. There's also Tamagui with Nate Weinert, who it is actually not using React Native Web under the hood, and it's not using React Strict DOM. He's got his own thing. Yeah. And his is actually based on kind of an earlier fork. I don't know if it's fork. An earlier version of React Native Web. I hope I'm not saying this wrong. Nate, if Nate watches this, he can correct us. But he's put a lot of time into making sure that it works really well with Tamagui. So Tamagui is also an option, and I would probably reach for that if you're looking to do this. Of course, Expo Web also, like that's based on React Native Web, but all of these things are options. But yeah, in the future, I guess React Strict DOM is where both of them seem to think it's going.
Yeah, I also always thought somehow that Expo Web was its own thing and was kind of like different from React Native Web, but looks like it isn't, right?
Yeah, it's not really. It's customized for Expo and Evan Bacon's needs a little bit, but under the hood is React Native Web View.
Okay, yeah. I mean, React Strict DOM looks interesting. When I tried it, it looks a bit weird. I think someone on your team asked this: can you do it like without the HTML.p, the div? And then the answer Nicholas gave was quite good, actually. And I get why you want to use it that way. I don't know.
Yeah,
I write my app like that in the future.
What I would probably do is just export those in your own app with your own component names, and then you can just use that everywhere, and it's sort of like an abstraction layer, but you just export them with your own names, like anywhere. They would need to have an uppercase name if you don't want to do any like compiler or bundler like changes, but yeah.
There's some other interesting things going on. Evan's profile on X is always a good source for speculations.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He recently talked about that CSS parsing is coming with Expo Router in the next version and Tailwind support. Like, I think we talked about this general concept that React Native is going more cross-platform in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the beginning, it was more iOS and Android, and for a couple of years, it's now, let's also bring web in. We want to do web at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
All of this feels like we're going in that direction. Have you tried anything? Do you think it's a good idea? Because some people actually think that like React Native should be more specific for iOS and Android. That's what it meant. And if you bring in Android, a web, it just like mixes everything up. Web has different philosophies after all than native.
Yeah, I mean, I did iOS. I also did web, but I did iOS before React Native and iOS native, and I liked the way that the mobile world kind of thought about stuff, and I was kind of more aligned with that. However, web is the gorilla. It's the huge like dominant community, and so what the website of things, like how they think about things, there's just so many more developers. They're going to really kind of be the focus, and I think this is an acknowledgement of that. And there's demand for it. Like there's demand for running React Native in a web context. You don't always want to do that, obviously, but if you've already built an iOS and Android app, and then you're like, we should do web, it's not like our focus, but some people want it, then like deploy there. It's just another platform that we can deploy to. You're right though, that the way that they do things is different, and Evan's kind of moving that direction with Expo Router having like URLs. Like having URLs in a mobile app is just not a thing over on the iOS side and Android side. It's just not how you think about it. You think about it in terms of stacks and different navigators. But he wants to bring it in like this is more of a URL context and kind of marry the two concepts, and has done a really good job with that. I don't know. Like I probably personally would like it to feel more like native development, but I get why the web side is winning and probably should.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit like with the AI stuff, which is it's great, but it just feels not like my stuff anymore. Yeah. If I now write my React Native app with React strict DOM and I have all this HTML and P and div, like I would miss my keyboard avoiding scroll view and my view, and like I don't know. It doesn't feel like React Native then anymore, but maybe that's the future in a couple of years. Are you seeing Infinite Red writing apps like that in the near future?
Not right now. No, it's going to be a little while before we would go that direction. We tend to, for good reason, with our client apps, purposely lag behind a little bit. We don't like to bring in the latest and greatest stuff because we don't want to saddle them with that pain. And so our day-to-day is going to be a lot of what we've been doing. But over time, we kind of, we're already starting to experiment with Expo Router already. It's been out for a while, but we're starting to put it in. Yeah, right. Yeah. We're starting to actually put it into client projects. In one case, we had to back it back out because it didn't work in the way that we needed it to. So we're a little bit cautious about that. But in our experimentation, I'm going to go like hack on whatever.
Jamon, we've come to the last question for today. It's a quite long episode.
These are great questions.
Like three of my episodes. I picked out one of your tweets for this one. So let's look a bit into the future. You said, I think in 26, 27, we're going to see a lot of innovation in the React Native world that we haven't seen as much in recent years. Mm-hmm. What were you hinting at, or what were you thinking of?
I think we're starting to see it already with some of the experiments that people are doing with Fabric and TurboModules, and of course Nitro modules and Expo modules. But we're going to start seeing, for example, I was doing some some experiments with calling native APIs from JavaScript without having to write any glue code at all, like being able to just say, I just want to reach out to a native API directly in JavaScript. I never have to drop down to native. And I think that more like fluid experiences, you know, I saw one the other day. Someone is like kind of building where every view is rendered with Skia. Like, you know, they're kind of almost going the Flutter direction, but with React Native, and you can just render everything with Skia. Your face.
Not sure if one.
Yeah, exactly. But it's experimentation, and I think this stuff's good. But yeah, I just think the new architecture unlocks a lot of that stuff. Having things be synchronous, very fast synchronous, like round trip in less than a millisecond, you know, much less than a millisecond. I think I did this one experiment and it was like 0.06 and it was returning a lot of data, 0.06 of a millisecond. And like I said, you know, you have 16 full milliseconds. Yeah. So that was pretty fast to talk from JavaScript to native and back and return an array of a bunch of data. So this it just unlocks a bunch of experiments that can happen. They're going to be built on this new architecture is what's going to happen. We were a little bit limited by that, and I think that there was some stagnation. There was some new stuff that would come along on the JavaScript side, which was cool, but just with the native integrations and some of the like gestures and animations and all this stuff, I think that's where we're going to really see it.
I always thought regarding this experiment you did that exposing all native functionality through JavaScript would be maybe dangerous. Isn't that the case? I think that at least that's what I always heard in the past. Like when I was working with Capacitor and Angular and Ionic, I also always asked for this. Can we just do this? And I know the creator always said, no, this is too dangerous if we expose all of that functionality.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't totally know what he means by dangerous, if he's talking about from a security standpoint or if he's talking about from like a app stability standpoint. And I would probably agree with the second. Security wise, I mean, maybe in a web context, you have all this like sandboxing happening. So maybe something like that would maybe have some security implications. Okay. I think I know what he's talking about. So in some cases, if you're using a web view, you could load stuff from a remote URL, right?
Sure, yeah.
And if you do that, then potentially someone could like run some JavaScript on your site. It's just not really a thing with React Native. Like you're not going to eval JavaScript in React Native. And so, yeah, then they don't have full access to everything in the back end on the native side. I mean, certainly from a stability standpoint, that can be a little bit of an issue if people don't understand how these languages work and how these APIs work and whatnot. You could have memory leaks, and they may be harder to debug or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I still like a good old API, but it's also good to know that if you want to do it, you probably can do it. I feel that should be the slogan for React Native for their website. Like,
yeah, totally. You have all these tools. Yep.
Right. Jamon, it was a pleasure to talk about everything going on in the React Native ecosystem. Where can people find out more about you and finally play Into the Dawn?
Yeah, you can find my game online on Twitter at Jamon Games. You can also at JAMMIN, Jamon Games. That's the name of my little studio. You can also find me on YouTube. Jamon Game Dev is the name of my YouTube channel.
Doing some live streams lately, right?
Been doing a little bit of live streaming on Twitch at Jamon Holmgren. And then, of course, you can find my main Twitter at Jamon Holmgren, which is where I do most of my React Native talk. I try to talk a little bit more about game dev on my Jamon Games alt so that people who don't want to hear me just go on and on about Godot can just... I actually had someone... the other day, I'd posted, I think on Instagram, just a short like video of my game. And he was like, oh man, you're really into Godot and I don't get to see as much like React Native content anymore. I was like, no, I'm doing both. Like, but yeah, if I have something cool to talk about, I'm going to talk about it.
But we haven't seen you on a tractor for quite some time. That was your thing for a while as well.
Yeah, my tractor is still functional. I actually had to fix something on it the other day, and I have some projects to do around the house that do involve the tractor. I have been using it. I used it the other day, but yeah, don't tweet about it quite as much. It's been a lot of fun to get out and touch some grass, here and there. There's definitely some stuff to do around the house. I got a bunch of downed branches that I just cut earlier this week, and I need to go clean them up.
Yeah. You need to work on business first.
Right. Yeah. Quote unquote business. Exactly. Yeah.
David, thank you for joining me. I'll put everything in the show note, and I will see you hopefully again in about 20 episodes.
Well, Simon, I do want to say you've been doing a fantastic job. I listen to your episodes and sometimes on my tractor. Seriously, that's where I'm listening to most of my podcasts, on my tractor or my lawnmower. So I'm listening to you as I'm driving around my 2 acres mowing or whatever. I love your enthusiasm. I love that you stay on top of the React Native community. I love that you're in the React Native community because I know that you were in some other language or other frameworks before, and you're an asset to our community. I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, I think that your show is underrated. You do have like a good audience, and they're a great audience, but it's underrated. It needs more people to listen to it. I just feel like you do such a great job, and I get a lot of my React Native news from you, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Yeah, maybe I should come join React Native Radio one day and just promote it.
It needs to happen, and it needs to happen sooner than later. It's too long overdue.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamon, and see you folks, everyone, next time. Bye. Thanks for joining today's episode. My goal is to share interesting stories and insights into the world of React Native development. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And on Spotify and Apple, you can leave up to a 5-star review. Because podcasts, and especially niche podcasts like this, are hard to find, subscribing and leaving a review does help me a lot. On top of that, check out my React Native courses on galaxies.dev that cover a variety of topics from getting started to building and publishing your mobile app. Finally, you can share today's episode with a friend or colleague who would enjoy the topic of the show. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, find me on X or leave a comment on YouTube. And last but not least, thank you for listening and happy coding, Simon.